If you're thinking about building your own camper, I say go for it. There's so much to gain, so much to learn, and get exactly what you want. But the whole idea, how to go about it, it's a bit tough. So I thought I'd share my journey. Hey, I'm Mike, and this is my camper build story. In 2014, my wife and I decided to explore the South Island of New Zealand. But the question was how to go about doing it and how to get the best experience in the backcountry. Well, the answer was rent a camper van with everything you need. This is ragged. This camper was rad. It was fun to drive, compact, tons of space, and of course, had views. What we loved about this camper was how many features it had to let us camp wherever we wanted, and ground clearance to get down those tougher roads. With our sweet little camper, we hit the windy roads of the South Island, first hitting Mount Cook National Park, some cool clay cliff spot, a bunch of hikes in between, some other lakes, waterfalls, and eventually made our way to Milford Sound. We took a boat ride to get an idea of this natural wonder, and let's just say it's a fjord and one of the wettest places on Earth, and it quickly let us know. The crazy part, this waterfall, it's not even here year-round, it's just because of the rain. And the sheer rock rising straight out of the water. The magnitude and scale of this place was just mind-blowing. And the camping was this euphoric, surreal sensation. We had this little camper spot tucked into the woods and a mountainscape that plummets 4,000 feet into a lush rainforest with a trout stream in an eye's view. It's a spot where nature's energy just cuts right through you. While we soaked in the wilderness, we would retreat into our camper and we appreciated its adaptability. Convertible spaces that kept us comfortable, and when the weather rolled in, we had a dry place to retreat to. Our 2-week trip was coming to a close and it was time to climb out of this incredible valley back to the airport. What felt like an endless trip was fading with each kilometer, and we started thinking about some things. We connected with this lifestyle of traveling and adventuring. And having an adventure vehicle that lets you go just about anywhere within reason, that's what we wanted back home. When we got to the airport, I bought myself a sketch pad. I spent the next 20-something hours flying back home and sketching different camper ideas for my Toyota Tacoma. It would be 2 years later before I landed on this camper design. Navigating the labyrinth of life, work, finances, and just ideating. What would be the perfect build, and what were those essential features we needed to be adaptable and capable in the backcountry? It had me thinking. And then I stumbled on this marketplace ad of a guy who built his own Poptop camper. You see, it's 2016. There's no wedge-top campers out there, and there's a huge gap in the marketplace. There's slide-ins, truck shells for that matter. This was different. Their solution was like a 1980s Chariot Poptop camper, but slimmed down and more lightweight. And the way they thought through their whole process was exactly the way I was thinking at the time. Critical for us was 4-season readiness, light as possible, large convertible space, and most importantly, utility factor. Yeah, utility factor. We don't camp every day. Our solution would take the lightweight benefits of a truck shell and combine it with the comfort and space of an Overcab camper. We would then add a pop-top roof, and that would give us more space when we slept. A modular drawer system would provide extra space, a kitchen, and a daybed to sit on. And when we're not camping, the interior space converts like a cargo van. The Overcab section can hold plywood and dimensional lumber, and plenty of space below for big bulky items. Building a sleek, aerodynamic camper wouldn't be easy, and this 1939 Slingsby glider was the perfect inspiration. Built out of wood, super curvy, it was a lightweight, high-strength design. And this biplane's wooden wing had all the answers to my questions. Multiple ribs would provide the camper's aerodynamic shape, and a lengthwise spar or beam would support the Overcab sleep section. The next big step would be to convert my sketch into actual parts, and to do this, I would use cardboard. Using a tape measure, I took 3 key measurements, and that would define the parameters of the main camper rib. First, starting with the widest point of the truck bed rail and adding some for the mounting system, then the max camper height to achieve a roomy interior, and a bed width that accommodates 2 adults. And lastly, I confirmed 30 inches for the overcab section, which would blend with the truck's side profile, but also would be structurally sound using wood and fiberglass as my method of make. I mocked up just enough in the front and side to confirm the look and dimension of the camper, knowing that as I continue to build parts, I would refine the front to make it look smoother. Next, I would convert the master cardboard templates into individual wood jigs. I would use 1/8 high-grade Baltic birch plywood to create the jig. Then using a router and a top bearing bit, I would cut down 1/2 inch Baltic birch plywood to make a final part. Next up, I would make a template for the camper's base that closely follows the truck bed profile. I would take key measurements along the template's base and then apply that information to the main rib. This is how I'd create multiple ribs that blended with the truck's bed profile. And as a result, the camper would blend with the overall look of the truck versus just be square. I would then use the main rib as a template to create the remaining smaller parts, the overcab section, the front, and the rear hatch. Using this simple design process, I could make precise parts with just basic carpenter tools, a router, a table saw, and a scroll saw. The next big phase of this build was putting all the parts together to create sub-assemblies. I would use some wood glue and fasteners and slowly piece everything together. It was critical to line up everything perfect to keep the rest of the build within 1/16 of critical dimensions. With the main structure complete, I used the same 1/8 inch Baltic birch plywood to start skinning the exterior. I would then use a kerfing technique to get the wood to bend around the corners of the camper. Kerfing is cutting a series of slots perpendicular to the wood's grain. Adjusting the depth and distance between each cut will help you bend it around different types of curves. During the design process, I factored the limitation of this kerfing technique. The sharper the curve, the more likely that piece will actually split in half. So it's a balance of look and having a part that will hold up to the building process. You'll notice some green tint on the frame, and simultaneously during the skinning process, I sealed the wood frame with a preservative to prevent against rot. As I completed the exterior skinning, I would stuff the interior frame with insulation. The insulation doubled as soundproofing, but most of all, it would provide thermal benefits for the hot days and the cold days when we camped. With the exterior mostly complete, I started skinning the interior. Just like the exterior, I would use the kerfing technique for areas that would have a bend. The last big step would be to cut out and frame the windows. I skinned the full interior with exception to parts of the passenger side to run electrical. Eventually I'd come back to this area to fiberglass the interior. Next up, I used the foam that was chemically compatible with my epoxy resin to blend the design at the 4 corners of the camper. You'll notice some big gaps between the foam in this process, and those would later be filled in along with other parts of the camper with Bondo to make it perfectly smooth for fiberglassing. This next phase of the build would be a test of patience, working fast, and a bit of nerve working through a big learning curve. I would begin the process of fiberglassing. applying 3 layers of 4-ounce cloth over the entire camper and the roof. I would mix small batches of epoxy resin with a hardener, which afforded me 18 minutes before the pot life would run out. The pot life I'm talking about is the working time you get to work with the resin. Once it's up, it gels up and you can't spread it out anymore. Since this was my first big fiberglass project, I needed to educate myself a bit and do some research, and I found this incredible manual by Russell Brown, Epoxy Basics. I purchased this guide online for maybe under $20, and it's worth its weight in gold. It really helped prepare me for some of the most difficult parts of the build, such as how to cut and lay the fiberglass around tricky compound curves. Overall, I was pretty stoked with how everything turned out and turned my attention to the roof. Due to limited space, I would fiberglass both sides of the roof on the actual camper. I would use a combination of wax paper and wood spacers to elevate the roof off the camper. This gave me peace of mind to work fast on the roof and not worry about resin and the actual fiberglass from the roof bonding to the main camper structure. The last big part to build was the rear door, and since it wasn't perfectly straight, I drew a rib profile, skinned it, and in between the skins I put insulation and then finally cut the window. To secure the door, I chose 2 high-quality RV latches, and then I disassembled everything for fiberglass. And a year of effort led me to this moment. Time to test the roof. Nailed it. With the camper built, the last big push was the fit and finish. I would apply a non-woven fabric to the interior to soften up the look. And if you're wondering about the roof, we chose a pair of brand new Westphalia hinges that raise and angle the roof. Next was figuring out the solar panel battery bank electrical system. This would power our needs off-grid, and we would hide most of the electrical system inside the camper walls. Having access to the fuse box would be critical when we would camp, so I decided on a hinge panel for the electrical components. This would allow me to change out fuses, modify the electrical system, and have flexibility over the design.
All the wiring's through the wall, comes out the side, goes up the gas strut. Got 2 interior lights here, skylight, see the stars, sunlight through the day, a light, and a pull-out drawer system light, a floodlight that actually articulates, and a light for the drawer system. USB ports, charger phones.
I built a pair of bed panels out of Baltic birch plywood and applied the non-woven fabric. This made a roomy bed with plenty of space to get in and out in the middle of the night. To finish the exterior, I used a durable 2-part epoxy marine paint by Interlux. This stuff is awesome. You can roll it on and it gives you a spray finish result. And to fabricate the tent, I sourced a medium weight PU coated ripstop. Months. Done. After some truck modifications and camper testing, we were ready to hit the roads in January 2018. The weather gifted us snow in the high desert of Central Oregon. It was an incredible experience and a true test of the camper's 4-season readiness. Before we knew it, we found ourselves adventuring every weekend, taking the camper and trying to push a little bit further, finding new spaces, sharing it with friends, and getting into new adventures. The camper made setup so easy. We would just roll up to spots, level the truck, and pop the top. And the camper delivered on the lightweight convertible space that we hoped for. It weighed around 500 pounds and cost us about $4,000 to build. After a year of camping, I decided I was going to redesign the drawer system to make it lighter, stronger, and a little more adaptable to our needs. But this plan unfortunately didn't get off the ground. On the heels of a trip to Tofino,
The camper struck an unmarked section of a parking garage. A small bump turned into massive damage for the camper, beyond repair. My simple error put a big halt to some big travel plans. There was only one thing to do: design, develop, and build a better version of Camper 1.0 Rotaire.
That's it.